enough of this video. Yay! Anyway, on antinatalism, which is sort of a problem. That I guess it's perceived that this argument has to be made in stages or something. So first you have to get people to get over the whole human thing, and then they have to get over the whole life thing. Living things are just little need monsters that are a GI tract, with a little bit of radar. There's nothing else happening. They're just little feeding machines. And, there's all this, the dark side, the pain and suffering that, people don't think much of, don't take much account for, because it's not happening to them, quite obviously. Anyway, the lovely Dee and Mike did a room, so I watched the first 33 minutes, so I thought I would opine on just some strategic kind of nonsense and, whatever, just some perspective issues on making the argument, which really doesn't have much about making arguments. That's not really what the problem is in terms of debate with humans in general, because they're unreceptive to logic. Clearly. Most of the world is religious. It's the silliest of fables. I mean, just a silly story. The God who sat around forever doing absolutely nothing, all of a sudden decided, I need to abuse some organisms. Yeah, I need to threaten them with damnation in hell if they don't do exactly what I tell them to do, even though I give them desires to do exactly what I'm telling them not to do. Yeah, that took forever to think up. That brilliant idea. I'll give them the desire to do things exactly the opposite of what I intend for them to do. And then I'll punish the fuck out of them if they don't meet up to my standards of deprivation and doing without. Oh, that makes sense. No. So, I mean, if this is the human condition, if something is dumb, an idea like God is so stuck in people's heads, yes, it's going to be difficult to have a conversation with human beings and help them understand anything. Yeah, I mean, it's, so yeah, there's no surprise that the debate devolves into war. These people are just too fucking stupid. But anyway, not really the point. Lovely. Anyway, so the point is what? Point is, okay, so yeah, I'll just put the camera down now and just talk. Okay, so first, strategy-wise, I guess the first thing I would say, just as a, constructive criticism thing, yeah, if you're going to try to persuade people, you just can't read something. So, I mean, yeah, I know you have to do that for school. You're reading because it's, but you just can't. And you can't do it so fast. It's way too fast. There's no chance anybody's going to understand what you're talking about. So you have to write less. You have to say more. You have to say it a little slower and a little bit more, when you get to the juicy parts kind of thing. And, yeah, some statistics okay, but I wouldn't, you got to be, no, I don't know how much point there is, and just generalize about the numbers is fine, I think, in most cases, to get the point across, but who knows? Like I said, there's no way to get the point across. The whole point of the argument is going to be some kind of, you're fighting through psychology, you're not fighting, so that's the first obstacle, is to get through psychology. And fundamental part of their psychology is devotion to notions that are in their head. So they have some notions in their head and they're just devoted to them. And they're just not going to hear about how Wayne Gretzky isn't the greatest hockey player in the history of mankind. They're just not going to hear it. Because they're devoted to a thought that's in their head. A notion of what makes life mean something. Bullshit is all you can say. People are sheeple, just a fact. And yeah, the real way strategically to win the war is just to get the head sheep, you know, to point them in the right way, or get the wolves to, you know, cooperate in sending them over the cliff, you know, like the lemmings that they are. The fact that most people won't understand ever what their life was is just a truth. And there'll be a few people, maybe Aristotelian types, smart people, who will sit there and say, how the fuck couldn't these idiots figure this one out? What the hell's wrong with people? You know, why so stupid? Just, you know, the way it is. So, you know, you can just ask simple questions. You just say, look, what makes life worth it? Feelings? Oh, I had some good feelings? Yeah, I won the lottery? You know, what are people living for? Are they living for something realistically they're going to attain? Are they living for something they're no chance in hell, but they're just hoping, they're living on hope? And the hope of what? The hope of what? Like I say, even if you win, you lose. Winning, you know, doesn't that just come with problems? Doesn't that come with the responsibility to make the most out of the victory? So you win the Olympics. What have you accomplished? You made a bunch of losers. You have created a bunch of sorrow and defeatism, and you know, you have emasculated thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands. You've destroyed through your victory. It's, you know, it is metaphorical to a gladiator war, and that's all you people are doing. You're just voting for a gladiator war. You're voting for some stupid contest where we just eviscerate each other. We just watch each other's guts fall out to declare somebody better than everybody else, and to stand on top of a big pile of guts and say, I win, and be happy for 49 seconds, and then start looking for the next contest where they can prove they're the best. And so what makes the difference? What makes it obvious to me and impossible to understand to somebody else? Well, I think it really depends. I mean, you have to, I think your butt has to be on fire for you to understand what it's like to have your butt on fire. I think you have to understand how bad, how harsh, how brutal mental torment can be, to understand just how unworth it could ever be. That you would never say, I'm going to make something that will have this torment, but he'll also win the Olympics, or some kind of crap like that. And you just say, no way. You know, you have to, if you're going to make something, you got to make something that doesn't have that poison pill in it, doesn't have those poison apples. There's just no pie. If you're going to keep putting poison apple in, there's no pie. There's just no point. I don't care what what else you're putting in the pie. It's irrelevant. If the poison's there, there's no baking. It's over. There's no point. And that's the nature of life. Our desires are made out of crap. Would I want to create a person who had my sensations, my desire, and say, it's so great? Don't I know that my desires are crude and callous and you know, it's just made out of my ego and my vanity? And I'm supposed to say, yeah, that's a great idea. Let me make some more vain things. So whatever. Look, people have kids when they're young and stupid, and then they grow up to be old and stupid, but the point is they're stupid. You know, that's the big word, stupid. And so how do you make people unstupid, uncautious, because they have experienced it? I mean, you can use examples. You know, I didn't become a rational driver until I had a couple of irrational accidents. You know, no problem. Never killed anybody. Didn't have to kill anybody to learn. All I had to do was realize, hey, you know, my standards of safe driving aren't high enough because I allowed an accident to happen. And you know, having the accident, you know, it's just so right in your face. You fail. I mean, failure is just written all over it when you look at the end result. Hey, the end result is, what a fucking mess. And so then you gain some respect for what you're doing and the consequences. And you realize, yeah, you just can't play that game. It doesn't work. It's not worth it if this example I got of the best possible accident could have been the worst possible accident. And if I'm not willing to accept the worst possible accident, I can't accept whatever I'm doing that allowed this accident thing to happen. So I have to change. And that's all it is, in realizing that this isn't good enough. The standards we've created aren't nearly good enough. Not a good enough game to play. Gladiator War. Winner take all. Horrific, consequential bad luck. Playing a game called Lucky. Is that sensible? Oh, let's play the game Lucky. Let's play the game Deserve has nothing to do with it. Makes any sense? No. So anyway, but this is just the human problem, right? We get caught up in this whole idea of what it is to be an emotional human, you know, living off of a competitive nature. And that's all that's taking place here. I mean, there's really nothing else you can find but our competitive obsession. I'm going to have another cigarette just because I like it. I'm running out. Yeah, I'm running out, so I probably have to make some sort of rule. Only have cigarettes while I make videos or something. Or during sex. Yeah, I'm still going to be out of cigarettes in a day. Anyway. Dreams. Anyway. Yeah, so that's splendor. You know, that's all there is. There's this little splendor moments. Splendid splendor. And but that's it. They're just moments. Moments of completeness. I completed the task. I have achieved euphoria. But it goes away. And then you're back in the whatever, the locker room, putting on your gladiator gear to go fight some more and, in a sense, consume some more. Eat some more pain and suffering. Eat some more something else's welfare. Eat just for what? So you can once again, for a moment, rub your penis on something just the right way. Come on. It's ludicrous. But that's the nature of life again. So that's just all life is, right? You look outside and you look at the living things, and all they're doing is concocting either mechanical or intellectual strategies, so they can feel comfort, so they can find peace of mind and body, so they can get their moment of euphoria, and that's it. It's just a cruel conquest, a cruel competition for an end that is, it's not trivial, it's substantial from our perspective, but that's only because we're so fucking hungry. But it's superficial. It's weak, transparent. It's unsubstantive as a victory. I win is not a very good statement. So, again, why do people vote for it? Well, because they don't live the whole life. They don't feel, they don't get to the points in life early enough where they get bitten hard and they get some sense of just how bad this can be, this game we're playing. And I suppose if they do, they somehow write it off as, oh, well, that'll never happen again. You know, or something like that. But just the idea that imposing, that even that sense, like, would I impose the worst day of my life on someone else? Could I actually do it to preserve my life? So to have 10 more years, I have the choice. I could just, to have 10 more years of playing the game, all I have to do is impose the worst day of my life on someone else. Now, I guess the average person would say, that's okay. I don't mind doing that. I don't mind taking somebody who is going to have a wonderful day at the pool and instead give them the worst day of their life so I can live 10 more years. To me, that illustration just spells it out, right? It says, fuck no, I wouldn't do that. Well, that's a metaphor for what we're doing every day, and we're doing it even worse. You know, all the animals that are being suffering every day to create your biosphere, the horror. 9 little lion cubs dead, you know, for every one that gets to enjoy the gratification of fornication. That's a good deal, huh? Little cubs bitten by snakes and eaten by hyenas, and it's a good deal. No, it's a shitty deal. You should be able to admit it. You should say, yeah, okay, I get it. Alright. No one's telling you can't think yourself great. But see, that's it. You really can't. If you can't feel your weakness, the weakness of your ideology, the weakness of your ego and your vanity, the weakness of the standards you're applying, the fact that you are dependent on your rationalizations and your justifications. And just admit that, though. Just admit, it really isn't that hard. You can admit you're an asshole, but you don't have to feel like you're an asshole. You really can. And you could admit that, yes, you're playing a superficial game that can't be justified. And you certainly can't justify imposing suffering on some other sentient being on this planet to justify your gains. It's just insane. It's a proposition. It's a non-starter for anybody who's calculating properly. Again, could you impose the worst day of your life? I mean, maybe some people just the worst day of their life is, you know, there wasn't enough peanut butter in their peanut butter and jelly sandwich. But I'm just saying, to justify continuing your life, you would actually do that. If the devil showed up and gave you that bargain, you would do it. You would fuck somebody else's day to have your way. But that's the game you're playing. That's what you've signed up for. This is a gladiator war. You will make losers. That's what you'll do. To have your enough peanut butter on your sandwich, you will take it all from some people. They'll be locked up in the mental institution forever in torment. They will live with some debilitating chronic illness. These things are going to happen in the world because of this voting for it bullshit. Because you people don't have enough sense to say, ooh, pause. Let's see if we can't make this a better game, let's not play it, please. It's just too stupid. Cockfight. This is not a rational game. Deserve has little or nothing to do with it. It's got to be a better game. But anyway, I've said this already. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Again, the point is, ooh, deja vu. Holy shit. Ooh, I'm being David deja vu'd intensely. Wow. With a spooky amount of deja vu. Anyway, I had that the other day in the video when it's the same kind of point. There must be something in my psychology. This must be hitting something, rubbing up against something tricky in my brain. But anyway, the point I just wanted to get to, yeah, so back to the religious argument again. It's just these, you ask a few simple questions. So you really think there was this God who sat around forever to come up with the idea of, well, let's put 2 humans on Earth and then we'll make them hungry for apples but tell them they can't eat apples. We'll make them hungry for knowledge and hungry to be important and hungry to feel good about themselves and not like slaves. And yet the very instrumentality that will allow them to try to be gods will sentence them to hell forever if they dare try to sneak that one through, sneak by. If they try to break that rule. You're not allowed to be a god. I mean, what a brilliant idea. I'm going to create something, say you're inferior, rub it in your nose, you're just my servants, and then walk away and say, they're not going to throw fucking watermelons at my fucking head? Come on. Your God sucks as a concept. It's just stupid. It's fucking stupid. And yet most of the human race can't offend their God. That's what they live for. The fable of creation. The idea that it was around forever and it thought life, creating little monsters that feed on each other, was a great idea. Let's make them compete and kill each other. So all you're doing, you Christians, you're just voting for the war, the Gladiator War. You're just feeding off of defeat. You're not feeding on victory, you're feeding off of defeat. Yeah, you sick fuckers. But anyway, so there's no... the point is the D is sort of arguing that there's some obstacle to persuading people. Yes, of course there is. Doesn't mean it's not your obligation to overcome the obstacle. I mean, it's just the way it is. This is the circumstance. People are dumb as fuck. So persuasion is going to require more than some technical argument. And it's just factually true that the easy way to sneak around this whole rig is just to invent another god, so to speak, that can defeat the god that sucks. So yeah, find a celebrity that just defeats all of the other cute icons of silly talk. I think, yeah, you can, in a war between Hooters and the Ayatollah, yeah, I think Hooters can win. But anyway. But most of it is going to be some kind of story. People are living a narrative. They think they're doing something and they're getting somewhere and they're winning. So you have to kind of just write the story for them and explain that this is your story. But the stories that are going to keep being written are going to be very different than your little personal story. And there's no playing the story game if some of the stories end with, and then I was gutted like a fish and, watched my innards spill out on the ground. No. The whole game isn't edible. It is poison. There's just too many poisonous bits. And you're playing with stuff that can't be played. They just can't be part of the game, once again. There's no... If you put it in real board games, you wouldn't play the fucking board... Oh, your arm has to get hacked off. I mean, really, would you play some board game for a superficial victory and there was a risk that you land on the square where your arm gets, for real, cut off? I don't think so. So, yeah, it's just really... So anyway, but the idea of this... what makes a good argument is the whole theory. People could have whole complex conversations, Freudian conversations, about how you manipulate people, and commercials and advertising, and the whole iconism, and running for president, and what the do's and don'ts, and don't offend people, and don't try to be neutral, but put enough peanut butter on their bread. All the games you can play to try to manipulate the sheeple. And yeah, your decency will say, I don't want to resort to those cheats. I don't want a dishonest victory. But again, that's just more of our character is built out of our ego sometimes and our own vanity. And there's a certain practicality to the cheat sometimes, unfortunately. But that's another calculation, you know. Cheating and losing is just such a dismal place to be. You know, oh, I cheated and I lost. Wow. You know, that really makes me a loser. That's being a double loser. So you kind of don't want to risk that one. It's a practical fact. And sadly, winning is everything in terms of the significance of the game we're playing. If we were playing a game that didn't matter, then you just say winning doesn't mean anything, and that's the game of life itself. You know, who has the broken leg kind of argument just doesn't matter. You know, artificially deciding which one of us gets the gold medal, who cares? There's a happy guy, and then there's a bunch of sad people who lose. That's the equation. The equation doesn't get better because it's you that's the winner. It's the same fucking stupid equation. And that just shouldn't be that hard to understand, that there's more seats on the loser bench than there are podiums for the winner to stand on. And that very fact is reason for rational people to say, you don't play Suffocate in the Swamp as a game. And because one person doesn't suffocate. You know, 1 in 10. Stupid. And again, this is all about, you know, if people were smarter, they could project their life into the future and they could realize, oh, I'm going to have some kind of choking death. You know, and if I'm lucky to live a long life, which is supposed to be super cool, yes, I'm likely to have many adventures coming very close to choking death, where I don't quite choke to death. You know, I almost choke to death, but don't quite choke to death. And that'll be fun. I can survive a few choking death scenarios without choking death until I finally choking death. A rational person can say, yeah, I can, okay. All right, I'm young, I'm horny, I'm cute and pretty. I can understand that, yeah, well, that isn't always going to be true. And I'm going to have to live life on the, ooh, you be fat and ugly bench. You know, on the place where you don't have any medals anymore. You don't have any, there's no shiny shit. And you're just a blight, a lump, a forgotten blob of crap, a useless pile of uninteresting tissue. It doesn't take much imagination to realize that's how life works. That's the game you're in. But people delude themselves. I could admit that I did in a way. I've said, I'm not going to live to be 30. Who cares? You know what I did. So, yeah, bad guess at the truth. So, but again, it's just rationalizations people use. So really there's not much we're saying here. We're just, the argument is basically one of these arguments about desire. And so people don't think having children is a molestation. Oh, I didn't molest the kid. I never played with its willy. But you're doing the same thing as a child molester. You're using the child as something to gain your gratification. You're having kids because your life isn't important enough until you create something that you can manipulate. And even if you're going to say, oh, I'm going to make it president of the United States, or it's going to have a great life, and it's not going to get cancer when it's 10 years, and it's going to have all these fun little adventures. Deluded thinking. You look at the average human being, and you look at the average statistics, and your kid's going to be fat and kind of dumb and stupid and useless. A bureaucrat of some kind. Bravo. Yeah, no, that's not an accomplishment. And again, if you're doing it just because you want to viscerally live off something else's existence, you need it. You need something to occupy your time doing. I need somebody to make cookies for, because that's what I'm good at. And so I'll force them, I'll make something that likes to eat cookies so I can feed it cookies. You don't understand how that's the same exact shit that's going on in the head of the molester? He doesn't want to do any harm. He just wants to get some gratification. Yeah. So, yeah. And there's no rational reason, again, to create some version of myself that isn't me, some kind of idea of me that can go out and chase vagina. In some, it'll be some particularly interesting way, in the pool hall, on the table. So there, it's worth it. I mean, really, is anything you're seeking in your life really anything but just some sort of cheap satisfaction of saying, oh, I win. Hey, I kicked your asses. Is there anything else going on? Honestly. Fuckers. I did good. Yeah, pretty much, right? Well, I mean, you have to reduce it to the idea of the quality, of your gratification. But that's what it comes down to. Is you're just looking for some hot chick, right? And so I should just invent something like myself that's just chasing tail. Doesn't seem rationally like that makes much sense. But anyway, enough of a video. So yeah, but the real subject is, we're only one stupid frog. We're one stupid creature on this planet that has one stupid way of gaining its survival. There's little horned lizards. There's little minkies that pull grubs out of trees with sticks. There's all kinds of silly little organisms finding some little stupid way to eke out something called comfort and gratification of their desire. These necessary desires, provoked by the consumption, reproduction, cannibalism, addiction. They just have to keep chasing, and they get a reward for chasing successfully of gratification. Comfort. I feel okay right now. I have a cigarette. Ooh, I don't have one. Ooh. That's it. That's all it is a bunch of critters conformed to play the game in a little bit different kind of silly, stupid way. Poke your index finger at it until it obeys you, and the other one, poke your middle finger at it. This is, variety without a difference. It's all just playing the same stupid chase game, and at a huge cost in terms of how many worse days have to be endured. And like I said, all I needed was a taste of those. You get a good enough taste of what losing is, and you realize it's not worth winning. To make that is not worth it. It's too superficial a victory for too high a cost. No cost to benefit analysis possible. There's just no rationality to it. Can't be made reasonable. It's just chasing for the sake of chasing, to say, yes, I win for 48 seconds, and then I go back into the swamp of deprivation and need. Bad idea. Anyway, but do you have to, again, rationality doesn't have much to do with human perspective, because it's always been tainted by this idea of God and the idea that life was an intentional creation, not a consequence or byproduct of mechanical process. And therefore there's no it's not seen on a rational billboard. It's seen on a background that makes it possible for the blood to disappear into the background, and all they see is the good bits, and they don't recognize just how catastrophic the failure is. No, but enough said. Pretty much. So anyway, good. Keep trying. That's all we could do. Yeah. But I think people can understand. I just think you need the right metaphors. You gotta conform it into a religion they can understand. That's what all philosophy is to most people. It's just some sort of story. So you have to make it a metaphorical story where they get it. And I think Old Fan has done a good job with her Ethelist movie. It's a good blueprint of the form argument sometimes needs to take for it to create an image, again, a metaphor that people can understand. It's like I could compare sports to a soap opera, and I could say that most people caught up in sports aren't any better than some kind of silly person caught up in watching a serial on TV and just, oh, I hope Agnes finally gets to enter her pie in the contest and win, or get fucked by Doctor Who's it. But whatever, the whole. But they're just vicariously living for fictitious characters. To have this moment in the sun, this rooting for the underdog, and there's a perfectly valid emotional. It's almost it's almost it's a good emotion. The theme of it is, the idea of it is good, rooting for the underdog. But it's bad in the context if you keep creating underdogs. If you just keep making losers, out of your back pocket, while you root for a few of them that once in a while win. That makes you sort of manga-esque in your insidiousness. So yes, it's emotionally nice to root and to hope, but it's goddamn evil to create the necessity for it in the first place. Yeah. Don't make losers, then you won't have to fix them. Yeah, simple. Don't break it, you don't gotta fix it. And we're just broken. The game is broken. Deserve has substantially nothing to do with it. That's a broken game. You don't play it. You don't vote for it. You don't finance its construction. You don't sell it. You don't do any of that. You just say, gee, yeah, I'm addicted. I'm caught up in it. But yeah, I'm not going to make any more victims to play loser. That would be cruel and stupid. Alright, that's enough of the video now, maybe. Sorry, still not really on the subject, but any conversation is good, I guess, that has the themes in it somewhere. So yeah, the idea is to find the little magic bullets, but I guess that's the argument. They're there to be found. You just have to find them. You just have to find this part of it's strategy, part of it's just you play enough notes and then sooner or later some of them make sense. I don't know. Some of it's luck. Whatever it's going to be, we either do it or we don't. We either only do or do not do. We either succeed or we lose. I'm not saying that there's no strategy involved. It's all just a matter of it will happen. That won't happen either. But it's hard to form a strategy when you're fighting something that has so little shape. And that, well, it says it has a shape. We know that propaganda works, lies work, bullshit works, iconism works. Lots of silly things work on painting it the right color works. We know a lot of silly things work in selling. But we also know that there's just such a drop in integrity in resorting to gimmicks that, you know, that also is makes it difficult to be that maniacal, to apply the very thing you despise. Victory's still worth it, but yeah, that's a hard pill to swallow kind of thing. The job of the janitor is to clean it up, and you know, if he has to use a solvent to do that, well, that's what he does. Anyway, some metaphor like that. Yeah, you have to do what you have to do. Yeah, to win. Winning is important in this circumstance. It matters. The assholes winning is bad. So you have to stop that from happening. But what we resort to do that, it's just hard to advocate for. Just fool them. Damn. I don't want to do that. But anyway, till next time. Be insincere. Just be insidiously charming and lovable and fool them into trusting you. Or some kind of shit like that. Fuck that. Yeah, but it's probably the way to go. Anyway, it's just these are the inevitable conundrums of a sloppy game. Is the fact that you have difficult to win circumstances. You know, places where victory will require compromises, and those compromises can be substantial losses. You know, where whatever victory you're going to get is going to be overcome by how much you had to compromise to win. Yeah, that kind of thing. But anyway, life is stupid. Don't vote for it. Enough of a video. Till next time and such.